I never really thought, and I'm going to get hated for this at some point, but I never really thought golf was a real sport back in the day. I'm Nick Cattrall. I'm a high performance coach specializing in golf professionals. I'm from Brisbane in Australia. I moved into the US in 2014, started out in Austin, Texas, and came to Jacksonville.
Why strength and conditioning?
Strength and conditioning has always been a fun part of being an athlete. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. I enjoyed it when I was playing soccer. I loved it. I really had a good love for track and field as well. And seeing these athletes be explosive and strong and move quickly and compete and be combative against each other was really quite a fun and exciting thing for me. So strength and conditioning was something that I could see emphasizing those principles, and it's an effort-based love. So, the more effort you put into it, the more you're likely to get out of it. Strength and conditioning has always been a really cool aspect of what I've done.
How did you segue into golf?
Golf was a funny one because I never really thought, and I'm going to get hated for this at some point, but I never really thought golf was a real sport back in the day. I cut my teeth in rugby league, rugby union, soccer, AFL, and cricket, and I suppose it shows my immaturity, at the time when I didn't really think golf was cool. It was sort of something that my family only did in holidays and drinking beer and having a good time. So when I got out of sport, I needed something to do that wasn't necessarily sport related. So I was, focusing on my clinic. I was getting stuck into, other aspects of being a practitioner. And a friend of mine, his dad is a professional golf coach, and he was out at Brookwater and he coached professional golfers, and effectively he asked me to come and help him out with some of his athletes, and I laughed at the opportunity because I didn't really think it was a real one and I didn't respect it. He sort of just asked me to come out and do a lesson, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll do a lesson. So I took Dad's 20-year-old clubs and went out, and I got a love for the game by being shown how ridiculously hard it was. It's a complex sport, and looking at the athletes that were on the range at the time when I had that first session, they were powerful, they were complex in movement, and they were extremely resilient and persistent all at the same time. So it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, you've completely got this wrong. And from that moment on, I was very interested and very intrigued. And the more I started learning about golf at that point, the more time that I wanted to dive into it. So back at Brookwater in Brisbane with Ian Triggs, those couple of years that I was cutting my teeth learning with different athletes, women, men, old, young, it was really eye-opening to see just how good these athletes are.
How's that how you ended up on tour working with pro athletes?
Yeah, one of my athletes at the time had a friend of his who was Stephen Bowditch on tour, and Peter Martin, who introduced me to Bowdo at the time, said that he was looking for someone to potentially travel with him on tour, and he's thinking about bringing someone on. He wants to treat and train and get better, and he's going to really put a lot of time and effort into his performance over the next year, and would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. And nothing really came of it to begin with, but I went down to the Australian Open and met him, and immediately was like, yeah, this is an opportunity that I want to pursue. And then a couple of months later, a week before the Riviera tournament, I got a call being like, can you jump on a plane in 3 or 4 days and meet me in LA? And I was like, all right, let's go. He's like, all right, I'll give you 3 or 4 weeks just to figure it out, and then we can make a decision on whether or not you're going to get a contract out of it.
Now, what would you say your style of coaching is?
Doing a Masters of Sports Coaching has taught me a lot about what my style is. Coaching a lot of athletes in the past has taught me a lot about how I like to deal with athletes. My style is very much the shepherd. I'm not much of a whip cracker. I can be if I need to be, but in my experience, allowing myself to sort of get on an athlete's level, be able to have empathy, be able to understand where they're coming from, gives me a perspective of being able to really sort of connect with the athlete and try and figure out what they're actually going through, what they want to get out of it. And I think that's the special source of working with people so closely and individually.
Now, what do you think separates you from other golf coaches?
Other performance coaches out of there, they've each got their individual strengths and weaknesses. Identifying mine has sort of been something that has been a fun yet daunting experience. My strengths lie in being able to look at the whole picture, not being acutely focused on one thing, trying to figure out the puzzle not just, where the pieces fit. So, having oversight on strength and conditioning, on musculoskeletal therapy, on the sports science side of things, and then, having the experience on tour for the last sort of 10 years, I think is going to be a really sort of big differentiator when you're looking at myself compared to other people.
You're opening a facility here in Jacksonville. Give us some background on why and how.
This has been a fun one. Call this a passion project, if you will. Ever since I've been out on tour, it's been a really big struggle to find facilities that do it all. That you can take a professional athlete, you can get body composition, you can get 3D testing, you can get coaching, you can get therapy, you can get, musculoskeletal assessments. So I wanted to build a facility that was holistic in nature, where we do sort of emphasize the all-in approach, because I haven't seen it been done, and there might be a reason for that, but at the same time, I think that we've got a really good opportunity here to bring good contributors to collaborate on our athletic performance for our athletes. And so I've built it the way that I think it should be run, and the way that I think that I would like my athletes to be put through that process. And Auden's Golf Performance has been a very eye-opening deal, trying to open up this facility with those facets in mind, because you need good contributors. You need that collaborative approach, and finding systems that aren't just in one vertical has been a hard thing to accomplish. So myself and my team have done a really good job of being able to put that together in the best way we can. And I think that our advancement and our growth over the next few years is going to be really interesting.
Now, who is your ideal athlete to walk in the doors at Auden?
I'm biased. I want the professionals. I love dealing with the guys that are looking for that 1%. My interests lie in trying to tick all the boxes, making sure that everything's getting covered, and that's shining light, getting very acute on those processes and protocols and the nuts and bolts of what they do, and then actually trying to excel in strength, power, and excel with whether their body's moving right or wrong. So being able to deal with a professional athlete, they're acutely aware of themselves as well, and they know how to make great differences very quickly. And that's a bias of mine. I just love dealing in that arena. But if someone walked in who hadn't touched a golf club before and wanted to get to a 10 handicap, they would be more than welcome as well. I would love to deal with them. The best thing about those guys is that they can make really good ground very quickly. We don't have to give them too much for them to excel. If they're going from a 20 to a 10 to a 5, if they're looking to even get on tour from a 5 handicap, we've got solutions there. So that's a puzzle in its own right.
What are your expectations for Auden's 5-year span?
The goal and the dream and the expectation with Auden's is that we can replicate this model. We would love to be the shining light of what golf performance and standard is in the future. I don't think that we can do one thing alone. I don't think that you can be a coach and not deal with the body. I don't think you can deal with the body and not have coaching input. I don't think that you can walk alone and expect someone to get the most out of it. And so Auden's Golf Performance will hopefully be in the next few years a standout figure in the golf performance industry, but also potentially being able to say, okay, we've got a really good formula here. We can take this formula and replicate it in different areas so that we can help more people.
You've had the success, you work on tour with pros. Why are you starting a YouTube channel?
YouTube has been a fun angle, I suppose, to sort of take this. I really believe that there's little things that people want to pick up all the time that are really low-hanging fruit. So we don't need to do massive sessions to be able to pick those cues up, to be able to have evidence-based suggestions where people can implement those tools or those suggestions or those protocols or those exercises or those tips and tricks straight away. And having YouTube be extremely popular right now, as well as being very successful in golf, it just proves that we can potentially show a lot of value. We can help a lot of people in a very short space of time, and it can be worldwide. I think YouTube is the biggest network in the world, and if someone from another country doesn't have physical access to our facility, they can still pick up some tips and tricks online that they wouldn't be able to get normally. Subscribe, enjoy the content. Tell me if you don't. Tell me what you want to see. I think we've got a really cool avenue to be able to showcase what we do. I think what you'll get from us over a lot of other people is the evidence-based approach. You know, what we actually believe works with the backing of either experience or what we know in the industry via research, via researched methods. And that's what I think is going to differentiate us between other people as well.